Most people don't realize the gut lining breaks down long before symptoms show. It happens quietly. A poor diet, chronic stress, antibiotics, alcohol, sugar, and sleep debt strip away the tight junctions that should keep the gut sealed. Once those junctions loosen, bacteria, toxins, and food fragments leak into the bloodstream. That leakage triggers inflammation, weight gain around the middle, crashing fatigue, bloating, immune overactivity, and brain fog. And because these signs are so common, many doctors dismiss them as normal, missing the root cause entirely. The real problem is that a damaged gut lining cannot heal itself if the microbiome is starved. Beneficial bacteria need specific fibers and natural compounds that act as fuel. Without that fuel, inflammation continues, the immune system stays on high alert, and digestive symptoms worsen. Patients get trapped in a cycle of gut permeability, systemic inflammation, and declining energy. This is where the hidden number one food becomes essential. Research shows it can begin restoring the microbiome within hours, not weeks. It feeds the beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate, the compound that seals the gut lining, lowers inflammation, improves insulin sensitivity, and calms the immune response. This food works faster than supplements because it delivers the raw material directly to the gut bacteria, instead of relying on lab-made isolates that often lack biological synergy. Doctors frequently overlook it because modern nutrition training focuses on calories and macronutrients, not microbiome chemistry. Yet this food's mechanism is simple. It nourishes the bacteria that rebuild the gut barrier and switch off inflammation at the source. When patients add it daily, they consistently report better digestion, fewer cravings, improved energy, and measurable reductions in bloating and inflammation markers. This is where gut repair truly begins. Leaky gut is not a vague wellness term. It is a measurable clinical process in which the gut lining becomes permeable enough to allow material through that should never cross into the bloodstream. The gut wall is only one cell thick. Those cells are held together by structures called tight junctions, which act as doorways that open and close with precision. When the system is working, these doorways remain tightly controlled, nutrients pass through properly, and toxins stay contained. But when the gut gets irritated by sugar, alcohol, antibiotics, stress hormones, industrial seed oils, and chronic inflammation, the proteins that keep those junctions sealed begin to weaken. Once that happens, gaps appear. They are microscopic, but large enough for bacterial fragments, lipopolysaccharides, toxins, and undigested food particles to slip through. When these substances enter the bloodstream, the immune system reacts aggressively. It recognizes them as invaders. That immune response creates a constant background level of inflammation. Many people think inflammation is simply pain or swelling, but at the cellular level, it means immune cells are firing continuously. Every time they fire, they release chemicals that signal danger. This increases overall inflammatory load. The mitochondria, which are the engines of energy production, become collateral damage. They get less oxygen, they burn fuel less efficiently, and they produce more free radicals. Patients feel this as fatigue, sluggish digestion, brain fog, hormonal disruption, and weight gain around the middle. These symptoms are not random. They are the downstream effect of a compromised gut wall and an overwhelmed immune system. The metabolic consequences run deeper. When endotoxins leak into circulation, they interfere with insulin signaling. This means the body becomes less able to process carbohydrates properly, leading to unstable blood sugar, cravings, and stubborn fat storage. The liver receives these toxins and must neutralize them, increasing the detoxification burden. The more toxins entering from the gut, the more energy the liver must allocate to clearing them. That leaves fewer resources for metabolic balance, hormone production, and repair. This is why people with leaky gut often report low energy, poor stress tolerance, and disrupted sleep. Their systems are constantly firefighting. From the immune perspective, leaky gut increases long-term workload. The immune system has to sort through a stream of unwanted particles day and night. This heightened vigilance creates an immune burden that drains energy reserves. Immune cells consume more nutrients and oxygen when activated. This diverts resources away from muscles and brain tissue. Patients often interpret this as tired but wired, low motivation, and difficulty concentrating. Many chronic conditions, autoimmune, inflammatory, metabolic, have origins in this persistent immune activation triggered by gut permeability. It is not the severity of the leak, but the duration of exposure that creates the problem. Even minor permeability has consequences if sustained over months or years. Stress compounds the issue. Cortisol thins the gut lining and suppresses digestive enzymes, which means more undigested particles remain in the intestines. These particles feed the wrong bacteria, allowing harmful strains to overgrow, which further inflames the gut wall. This becomes a vicious cycle. Permeability increases inflammation, inflammation increases permeability. Once the microbiome is imbalanced, the beneficial bacteria responsible for producing short-chain fatty acids diminish. Without these fatty acids, specifically butyrate, the gut lining struggles to regenerate. Butyrate is the primary fuel for the cells that make up the gut barrier. If they cannot access enough of it, repair slows, tight junctions weaken further, and symptoms escalate. This is precisely why repairing the gut must begin with restoring the microbiome. Supplements can help, but they often deliver isolated compounds that lack the complex structure of natural foods. The bacteria living in the colon do not thrive on synthetic additives. They thrive on specific fibers and biochemical substrates that occur naturally. One particular food provides these substrates in an ideal form. When consumed, it feeds the beneficial bacteria directly, allowing them to produce the butyrate needed to seal the gut lining. Research shows changes in microbiome activity within hours because this food reaches the colon intact, ready to be fermented. The fermentation process produces the short-chain fatty acids that switch off inflammation, stabilize the immune response, and reduce endotoxin leakage. As beneficial bacteria multiply, tight junctions strengthen, the inflammatory load decreases, and mitochondrial function improves. When the gut lining begins to repair, patients often report clearer thinking, more stable energy, fewer cravings, and reduced bloating. These improvements occur not because the food is magic, but because it supplies exactly what the gut needs to rebuild itself. This is why it works faster than most supplements. It follows the body's natural repair pathway, starting with microbial nourishment and ending with improved barrier integrity. This is the foundation of true gut healing. The reason this particular food works so quickly is because it delivers the exact biochemical substrates that beneficial bacteria require to function. The gut is a fermentation system. Bacteria take in complex fibers and convert them into metabolites that regulate inflammation, immunity, and gut barrier strength. When the microbiome is underfed or fed the wrong materials, it shifts toward strains that produce inflammatory byproducts. But when this food reaches the colon, it selectively nourishes the bacteria that produce the compounds essential for gut repair. These bacteria recognize it immediately because it mirrors the natural fibers human digestive evolution relied on for thousands of years. As soon as they receive this substrate, they begin fermenting it. Fermentation triggers the release of short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate, and the benefits begin almost instantly. Butyrate is the critical player. It is the preferred fuel for colonocytes, the cells that line the gut wall. When these cells receive adequate butyrate, they strengthen the tight junctions that hold the gut barrier together. They also increase mucus production, creating an additional protective layer that prevents toxins and endotoxins from reaching the bloodstream. This is a direct cause and effect pathway. More butyrate means stronger colon cells. Stronger colon cells mean tighter junctions. Tighter junctions mean less permeability and lower immune activation. The body recognizes this shift quickly. Even a single dose of the right substrate can trigger measurable increases in short-chain fatty acid output within hours. This food also encourages the growth of key bacterial species that modulate inflammation. Beneficial microbes produce anti-inflammatory compounds which downregulate cytokines such as TNF-alpha, IL-6, and IL-1. These cytokines are responsible for much of the systemic inflammation associated with leaky gut. When they decrease, the inflammatory load on the body drops. Reduced inflammatory load means mitochondria experience less oxidative stress and can resume normal energy production. Patients often interpret this as clearer thinking, improved energy, and a reduction in the foggy, heavy sensation associated with gut-driven immune activation. None of these effects require days or weeks. The immune system responds to reduced endotox in flow almost immediately. Another key mechanism is support for mucosal immunity. The mucosal layer of the gut is home to secretory IgA, an antibody that plays a first-line defense role. When the gut lining is damaged, IgA becomes depleted. This reduces protective capacity and allows pathogenic bacteria or fungal species to proliferate. The food in question stimulates beneficial bacteria that produce metabolites which support IgA regeneration. As IgA levels rise, the mucosal barrier becomes more robust. This reduces the risk of infections, calms immune hyperactivity, and prevents further damage to the gut lining. Again, this is a simple mechanistic loop. Feed the right bacteria, increase their beneficial output, restore mucosal immunity. The reason the gut responds so quickly is because the colon reacts directly to what reaches it. Unlike supplements that must be digested, absorbed, metabolized, and transported, this food bypasses most of the upper digestive tract intact. It arrives in the colon in its full form. The bacteria encounter it immediately. Fermentation begins without delay. This is why people often report decreased bloating, better bowel movements, and reduced urgency after the first few servings. The microbiome shifts its metabolic activity as soon as its fuel source changes. This is a fundamental principle of gut ecology. The environment determines which species thrive, and their activity determines inflammation levels, immune signals, and gut wall integrity. In contrast, many supplements fail because they deliver isolated ingredients rather than whole substrates. Synthetic probiotics often cannot survive stomach acid or colonize the gut. Probiotic supplements may contain only one isolated fiber that feeds only a narrow range of bacteria. Even butyrate supplements underperform because they are absorbed too early in the digestive tract and never reach the colonocytes that need them. The body requires fermentation-derived butyrate produced by its own bacteria in the location where repair occurs. This food activates that process naturally. It delivers a complex matrix of fibers, polyphenols, and molecular structures that no synthetic formulation can replicate. Another reason supplements fail is because real gut healing depends on synergy. Short-chain fatty acid production is regulated by interactions between multiple bacterial species. No pill can reproduce that ecological coordination, but a natural substrate can. When this food enters the colon, bacteria cooperate to break it down. That cooperative breakdown produces a broader profile of beneficial metabolites, not just butyrate. Acetate and propionate also play roles in blood sugar regulation and appetite control. Polyphenols from this food act as antioxidants that further reduce oxidative stress within the gut lining. The result is a multilayered repair response triggered by one intervention. This is why the mechanism is immediate, predictable, and powerful. You feed beneficial bacteria, they produce short-chain fatty acids. Those acids fuel the gut lining, the lining strengthens, inflammation drops, mucosal immunity rises, endotox, in leakage decreases, energy production stabilizes. This is the simple, elegant cause, an effect pathway that begins with the right food and ends with rapid gut repair. When the gut lining begins to repair, the benefits extend far beyond the digestive tract because the gut is the body's central control hub. Every major system depends on it. The lining is responsible for absorbing nutrients, regulating immune activity, producing neurotransmitters, and supporting hormonal balance. When permeability improves and inflammation drops, each of these systems begins to stabilize. This is why patients often report whole body improvements within days of restoring the microbiome with the right food. The process is biological, not psychological, and follows predictable pathways. Digestion is the first system to benefit. When the gut wall is damaged, enzymes cannot function properly, bile acids become disrupted, and food passes through partially digested. This leads to bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, or alternating patterns. As the tight junctions strengthen and mucosal immunity improves, digestion becomes more efficient. Enzymes work better because inflammation is lower. Bile flow improves because the liver is under less toxic burden. More of the food gets broken down in the right place at the right time. Nutrients from proteins, fats, and carbohydrates can be absorbed instead of fermenting in the wrong part of the gut. The H1 food accelerates this shift because it supports the bacteria responsible for maintaining a healthy gut pH, motility, and mucus thickness. Patients commonly experience reduced bloating, smoother bowel movements, and more regular elimination in the first week because fermentation becomes balanced rather than chaotic. Immune regulation also begins to stabilize. Nearly 70% of the immune system sits inside the gut. When the lining leaks, the immune system is exposed to particles it should never see. It fires continuously, creating chronic inflammation. Once the gut barrier starts sealing and endotox, inflow reduces, immune activity calms. This is measurable. Markers such as CRP, IL-6, TNF-alpha, and secretory IgA begin shifting in the right direction. The H1 food promotes beneficial bacteria that help regulate T-cell activity, meaning the immune system becomes more discerning instead of overreactive. Patients often report fewer food sensitivities, reduced seasonal allergies, less joint stiffness, and fewer flare-ups of inflammatory conditions because the immune system is no longer overwhelmed. Energy production improves next. Mitochondria function best in a low-inflammation environment. When toxins leak from the gut, free radical production increases and mitochondria shift into defensive mode. This cuts ATP production, leading to fatigue, sluggishness, and poor recovery. As permeability decreases, oxidative stress drops. Butyrate from the H1 food also fuels mitochondrial function directly. It enters the Krebs cycle efficiently and produces clean energy with fewer free radicals. Patients frequently describe a steady rise in energy levels, clearer thinking, and a sense of mental lightness, because mitochondria are no longer being suffocated by inflammatory byproducts. This is exactly why Dr. Myhill emphasizes gut repair as step one in treating fatigue. Hormonal systems benefit because they are sensitive to inflammation. The thyroid struggles when the body is inflamed because conversion of T4 to active T3 slows. The adrenal glands stay on high alert when the gut leaks, raising cortisol, which further weakens the gut lining. Once inflammation diminishes and the immune system calms, cortisol naturally normalizes. This reduces adrenal strain. Thyroid hormone activation improves as liver congestion decreases. Many patients notice better temperature regulation, steadier mood, improved metabolism, and more stable energy because their endocrine system is no longer compensating for constant inflammatory stress. The #1 food assists by improving insulin sensitivity through short-chain fatty acids, which reduces blood sugar spikes and supports hormonal balance. Skin health transforms because the skin is an extension of the gut. Conditions like acne, eczema, rosacea, and premature aging often worsen when the gut is inflamed. Leaky gut increases circulating endotoxins that overstimulate the immune system and disrupt collagen production. When the gut lining heals, the inflammatory chemicals driving these skin conditions decrease. Beneficial bacteria also produce metabolites that improve antioxidant status within skin cells. Patients often see reductions in redness, fewer breakouts, smoother texture, and overall brighter skin because inflammation load is lower and nutrient absorption is higher. The #1 food supports this by restoring microbial diversity, which is directly linked to skin clarity and elasticity. Brain and mood also shift quickly because the gut produces neurotransmitters. Serotonin, dopamine, and GABA are regulated by gut bacteria. When harmful bacteria overgrow or inflammation is high, these neurotransmitters become unbalanced. This contributes to anxiety, low mood, irritability, and poor focus. As the gut lining strengthens and beneficial bacteria regain control, neurotransmitter production becomes more stable. Butyrate crosses the blood-brain barrier and supports neuroplasticity, which improves mental clarity and resilience. Many patients report sleeping better, feeling calmer, and thinking more clearly within days. This is not placebo. It is the result of reduced inflammatory cytokines reaching the brain and improved signaling between the gut and nervous system. These systemic improvements occur because the body is designed to function optimally when inflammation is low and nutrient absorption is high. The #1 food triggers the repair cycle by feeding the bacteria that produce the compounds responsible for restoring the gut wall. Better gut function leads directly to improved immunity, more efficient energy production, balanced hormones, healthier skin, and clearer thinking. The benefits may feel dramatic, but they are simply the natural result of correcting the root cause rather than masking symptoms. Using this food correctly determines how quickly the gut begins repairing. The body responds best when the microbiome receives a steady, predictable supply of the substrate it needs. Too little will yield slow progress. Too much, too quickly, may create temporary bloating because bacteria ferment it rapidly. The aim is consistency, not excess. Most adults do well starting with 1 to 2 tablespoons per day, gradually increasing to 2 to 3 as the gut adapts. This amount provides enough fermentable substrate to feed beneficial bacteria without overwhelming the system. Timing matters because the gut's microbial activity follows a circadian rhythm. Beneficial bacteria are most active during the early morning and late evening. Taking this food in the morning primes the microbiome for the day, improving digestion, motility, and energy stability. Taking a second serving in the evening supports overnight repair when the gut focuses on regeneration rather than digestion. Mixing it with meals improves tolerance and ensures it reaches the colon intact. Combining it with water alone can work, but pairing it with food slows transit time and encourages a smoother fermentation process. The effectiveness increases when paired with hydration, minerals, and real whole foods. Bacteria need water to ferment fibers efficiently. When the gut is dehydrated, fermentation slows, constipation increases, and symptoms can worsen. Adequate magnesium supports motility and reduces the risk of cramping during the adjustment period. Pairing this food with vegetables, healthy fats, and lean proteins enhances its effect because natural nutrients help regulate blood sugar and support the repair cycle. What reduces effectiveness is combining it with sugar, alcohol, or processed foods. which feed inflammatory bacteria. The aim is to create a consistent environment in which beneficial species thrive. Most people need to continue daily use for at least 8 to 12 weeks to achieve full gut lining repair, though many feel improvements far sooner. The gut lining regenerates rapidly when given the right substrates, but chronic inflammation or a long history of antibiotics may require more time. The goal is to maintain steady progress rather than expecting instant transformation. Once the microbiome stabilizes and digestion becomes predictable, the dosage can be adjusted based on individual tolerance. A morning routine helps structure usage effectively. On waking, drink a glass of water with electrolytes to rehydrate after the night. Wait 10 minutes, then mix your first serving of this food into a smoothie, yogurt, or warm water with lemon. This primes the gut bacteria, stimulates motility, and reduces cravings later in the day. Eating a protein-rich breakfast within an hour stabilizes blood sugar and reduces stress hormone spikes. This combination ensures the food reaches the colon in a controlled way that encourages fermentation rather than irritation. If you exercise in the morning, take the food afterwards when digestive blood flow increases and bacteria are more responsive. A digestive support routine throughout the day keeps fermentation balanced. Eat meals slowly and avoid drinking excessive amounts of water during meals, as this dilutes stomach acid and slows digestion. Combine this food with lunch or an afternoon snack if you need additional digestive support. If bloating occurs, reduce the serving size temporarily and increase hydration. Light movement after meals helps prevent fermentation from becoming stagnant. A short walk activates the gut's migrating motor complex, which clears debris and encourages proper nutrient absorption. For a microbiome reset routine, the focus is feeding bacteria steadily while removing the substances that disrupt them. This requires avoiding sugar, alcohol, seed oils, and late night eating, all of which increase inflammation and weaken the gut wall. Eat whole plants, clean proteins, and healthy fats while maintaining daily intake of this food. Take your second serving in the evening, ideally with dinner or shortly before bed. When consumed at night, fermentation happens slowly and steadily, allowing butyrate to regenerate the gut lining while you sleep. This overnight cycle of fermentation and repair accelerates healing because cortisol is naturally lower. Inflammation is reduced, and blood flow is directed toward the digestive organs. If constipation occurs during the adjustment phase, increase water intake, add magnesium, and consider lowering the serving size until the gut adapts. If loose stools occur, pair the food with fats such as avocado, nuts, or olive oil, which slow digestion and reduce rapid fermentation. The key is observation and gradual adjustment. The goal is a comfortable, predictable digestive rhythm. When used correctly, this food becomes a daily tool for reinforcing the gut lining. The combination of consistent dosing, proper hydration, and supportive meal habits allows beneficial bacteria to thrive. This leads to stronger tight junctions, reduced inflammation, and a healthier microbiome. The routine becomes almost automatic. Hydrate, feed the bacteria, eat real food, support digestion, and repeat. This is the most efficient path toward long-term gut stability and whole body wellness. While adding the right food can repair the gut, several common foods and habits actively counteract its benefits. Sugar is one of the most damaging. It feeds harmful bacteria and yeast, promoting overgrowth and dysbiosis. This overgrowth releases endotoxins and inflammatory metabolites that weaken tight junctions, increasing permeability. The microbiome shifts towards strains that produce less butyrate, so even the best gut-repairing food cannot function optimally. Alcohol similarly inflames the gut lining. Ethanol disrupts cell membranes, reduces mucus production, and impairs liver detoxification. allowing more toxins to reach the bloodstream and triggering systemic inflammation that undermines repair. Processed foods contain refined carbohydrates, additives, and preservatives that disturb microbial balance. These compounds promote inflammatory bacterial species, create oxidative stress in colonocytes, and reduce nutrient absorption, all of which slow the healing process. Seed oils, high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids, are another major culprit. They oxidize easily and produce lipid peroxides that damage cell membranes in the gut lining. These peroxides trigger local immune activation and mitochondrial dysfunction in enterocytes, weakening tight junctions. Gluten can also exacerbate permeability in sensitive individuals by stimulating zonulin release, which opens tight junctions. Even if gluten does not trigger classic symptoms, it may still sustain low-grade inflammation that interferes with gut repair. NSAIDs, commonly used for pain, inhibit prostaglandin synthesis. Prostaglandins are essential for maintaining the protective mucus layer and blood flow in the gut. Regular NSAID use thins the mucosa, making the lining more fragile and more susceptible to damage despite supplementation or supportive foods. Chronic stress directly affects the gut through the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal axis. Elevated cortisol levels increase gut permeability by reducing mucus production and suppressing immune tolerance. Stress also alters microbial composition, favoring pro-inflammatory bacteria over beneficial species. Poor sleep compounds this effect because repair processes in the gut occur primarily at night. When sleep is insufficient, tight junction proteins are expressed less efficiently, and microbial balance is harder to maintain. Overeating places constant demand on digestion and slows transit time, giving harmful bacteria more opportunity to ferment food improperly, increasing gas, bloating, and inflammatory metabolites that challenge gut repair. Each of these factors undermines the mechanisms by which the HASH1 food restores the gut. Beneficial bacteria require a stable environment, adequate substrates, and low inflammatory stress to produce butyrate and other short-chain fatty acids. When sugar, alcohol, or processed foods dominate, these bacteria are outcompeted by inflammatory strains. Oxidative stress from seed oils and toxins from gluten or NSAIDs impair colonocyte function, meaning tight junctions cannot fully close. Stress and poor sleep prevent mitochondria from generating sufficient energy for repair, slowing the regeneration of the gut lining. Overeating amplifies fermentation of inappropriate substrates, producing excessive gas, short-chain fatty acids in the wrong location, and mild endotox in leakage, which keeps the immune system chronically activated. The cumulative effect is that even with daily intake of the healing food, the gut cannot repair efficiently unless these disruptive factors are minimized. The strategy is simple. Feed beneficial bacteria consistently, reduce exposure to inflammatory triggers, and allow the mucosa time and energy to regenerate. Reducing sugar and processed foods deprives harmful bacteria of fuel. Avoiding alcohol and NSAIDs preserves mucus integrity and prevents epithelial injury. Managing stress and prioritizing sleep supports mitochondrial function and immune tolerance, enabling repair to proceed at a physiological pace. Gluten should be limited if sensitivity exists, and overeating avoided to prevent unnecessary fermentation stress. These adjustments create the stable environment the microbiome requires to respond fully to the healing food. When these factors are addressed alongside daily use of the HASH1 food, tight junctions begin to strengthen, mucosal immunity normalizes, inflammatory cytokines decrease, and energy production improves. The gut lining repairs efficiently, digestion stabilizes, and systemic inflammation declines, demonstrating the direct link between lifestyle, diet, and the microbiome's ability to restore health. A 24-hour gut repair routine begins the moment you wake. Start with a glass of room temperature water to rehydrate after sleep and support microbial activity. Within 10 minutes, consume the first serving of the hash, one food, mixed with a small amount of liquid or a morning smoothie containing minimal sugar and protein. This primes beneficial bacteria to begin fermenting immediately, producing short-chain fatty acids that fuel colonocytes and start tightening the gut lining. Follow with a balanced breakfast including clean proteins, vegetables, and healthy fats. Eating slowly and chewing thoroughly supports enzymatic digestion and ensures the microbiome receives nutrients in the correct location. Light movement, such as a brief walk, encourages gastrointestinal motility and prevents stagnation of fermenting food. Mid-morning, maintain hydration with mineral-rich water or herbal teas that do not contain caffeine or sugar. Avoid snacking on processed foods. If you need a snack, a small serving of nuts, seeds, or vegetables supports microbiome diversity. The bacteria activated by the morning dose continue producing butyrate and other metabolites, repairing the gut lining and lowering inflammatory cytokines. Energy stabilizes as mitochondria are relieved from constant oxidative stress caused by endotox. In exposure, improving focus and cognitive clarity. Lunch should include a second serving of the hash, one food, either incorporated into the meal or consumed shortly beforehand. Pair it with lean proteins, fiber-rich vegetables, and healthy fats to slow digestion and ensure gradual fermentation. Avoid sugar, alcohol, and highly processed foods. Take time to eat slowly, allowing the body to enter the rest and digest state where blood flow prioritizes the digestive tract. Post-meal light movement, such as a short walk or gentle stretching, encourages peristalsis, reduces bloating, and facilitates nutrient absorption. By now, the tight junctions are beginning to strengthen, and microbial balance is shifting toward anti-inflammatory species. Mid-afternoon, continue to support the gut by hydrating and avoiding stimulants or empty carbohydrates. Gentle mindfulness, such as a 5-minute breathing exercise, reduces stress hormones that compromise gut integrity. Beneficial bacteria continue fermenting substrates from the earlier meals, producing metabolites that enhance mucosal immunity and reinforce the gut barrier. Any minor digestive discomfort signals that the system is adapting and remodeling. Dinner should include the third serving of the hash, one food, timed approximately 30-60 minutes before or during the meal. Combine it with a colorful plate of vegetables, healthy fats, and moderate protein. Eating in a calm environment supports parasympathetic activation, encouraging efficient digestion and nutrient absorption. Avoid late-night eating, sugar, and alcohol, which counteract the repair process. Light post-meal movement, such as a short walk, helps prevent fermentation from becoming excessive and maintains steady microbial activity. By this stage, short-chain fatty acid production has reached levels sufficient to begin repairing tight junctions at the epithelial level, enhancing mucosal thickness and reducing endotox in leakage. Before bed, finish the day with another small glass of water and, if tolerated, a fourth, lighter serving of the hash, one food. This ensures beneficial bacteria remain active overnight while the body enters its regenerative phase. Nighttime fasting directs energy toward tissue repair rather than digestion. Sleep should be prioritized because the majority of gut repair occurs during deep sleep cycles when cortisol is naturally lower and mitochondrial function is optimized. Adequate rest allows colonocytes to use butyrate efficiently, tight junctions to close fully, and mucosal immunity to normalize. Beneficial bacteria continue producing anti-inflammatory metabolites, creating a feedback loop that supports systemic immune balance, energy stability, and improved digestion upon waking. Throughout the 24-hour cycle, consistency is critical. The combination of morning, afternoon, evening, and pre-bed servings of the hash, one food, ensures continuous substrate supply for beneficial bacteria. Hydration supports fermentation, enzymatic activity, and mucosal health. Balanced meals slow digestion and allow the metabolites to act where they are needed. Rest, mindful eating, and light movement optimize motility, reduce stress, and facilitate nutrient absorption. By following this protocol daily, the gut lining progressively strengthens over the 24-hour cycle. Tight junctions tighten, inflammatory cytokines decrease, mucosal immunity improves, and energy production stabilizes. The microbiome shifts toward a stable, anti-inflammatory state, providing the foundation for long-term gut health and systemic wellness.